Good day. We are continuing with life and living, and we have completed unit number 1 on biosphere. Today we are starting unit number 2 on biodiversity. Remember, for term 1 we will cover 5 units of life and living, and today we are starting with the second unit, that is biodiversity. Okay, so let us look what will be covered in biodiversity. Let me see if I can put this so that you can see. Yes, just like that. Okay, so under biodiversity, we are going to cover 5 subunits, okay? And they are also divided into smaller parts. And we are going to learn what is biodiversity. We are going to learn about the classification of biodiversity. And we are going to learn about the differences between plant kingdom and animal kingdom. Then we are going to learn about the diversity of animals, which under the diversity of animals will cover the vertebrate animals and the invertebrate animals. And we are going to look at diversity of plants, and we're going to look at plants without seeds, and we're going to look at plants with seeds. And the plants with seed, they will be divided into gymnosperms and angiosperms. Okay, so that is what we are going to cover. It's a lot of work, but we are going to break it down into smaller pieces that you'll be able to understand. Let us go to our very first section, 2.1, that tells us what is biodiversity. And here is the definition. They say biodiversity is the variety of different living organisms that are found in an area. Okay, so it's a variety of different living organisms that are found in um, an area. Biodiversity of a biosphere refers to all different types of living plants, animals, and microorganisms. Okay, 3 types of living plants, animals, and microorganisms, and also their habitat. Habitat is home, where they live on Earth. The biodiversity of a certain area or ecosystem refers to the number of different living organisms found in a certain area. It is important for the survival of life on Earth that biodiversity must be protected. This means that various types of landscape must be conserved, okay? And endangered species must be protected. For example, like your rhinos are endangered, so they must be protected. And we've got a quick fact there. They say if habitat are destroyed and species become extinct, all life on Earth is affected. By now we have defined extinct mean that there is no longer that organism that exists. Okay, like the dinosaurs, for example, they became extinct. Okay, so they say biodiversity refers to all 3 different types of living plants, animals, and organisms. Okay, and let's go to our next page. We started from our textbook page 47. Now we are going to the next page, which is page 48. I hope you are able to see this clearly. They say now we are going to classification, right, under biodiversity. Scientists that study living organisms arrange them into classification system. They are sorted according to their shared properties. All living organisms can be divided into 5 main groups. 5 groups, okay, or kingdoms. They call them 5 groups or kingdoms. Below is the division of the 5 kingdoms. Let us see this division of the 5 kingdoms. It's in page 48. So we have living organism, Under living organism, we've got bacteria, we've got protista, which is the single-celled organisms. We've got animals, number 3. We've got plants, number 4. And we've got fungi, number 5. And they make an example of fungi there. They say example is bread mold and mushrooms. Okay, so living organism classification, it can be classified, living organism can be classified into 5 groups or 5 kingdoms. Bacteria, protista, which are single-celled organism, and animals. Then we have plants and we have fungi. Okay, under fungi, the example is bread mold and mushrooms. Okay, so I just want, if possible, let's see if we can see the bread mold. But you know what is bread mold, but I just want to show you so that we know what is bread mold. So if you have kept your bread for longer, it starts to grow something like this. Let me see if I can get different images. Yes, that is our bread mold, you see. So that is an example of fungi. Okay, see your bread mold, and here it's the microscopic picture of the bread mold. Okay, so let's go back to our topic. They say the kingdoms are divided into smaller groups such as phyla, classes, orders, and families. Finally, each specific organism gets its own unique name that consists of 2 parts, the genus and the species. The names of organisms are usually of Latin origin. Therefore, it's strange words because it is Latin. Below is an example of classification system. Okay, so let's check the example of classification. We have life, which represent human, and the kingdom, it's animal kingdom. Okay, and the phyla, they say it's chordata, and they say it's animals with spine. And the class, mammalia, which means mammals, animals that suckle their young. And order, it's primates, which is mammals with 10 fingers and 10 toes, a collarbone, and only 1 pair of mammary glands. And family, Hominidae, which is human-like. And genus, it's Homo, which means man or human. And a species is Sapiens, means clever or wise. This is an example of a classification system. However, we have a note here below. They say you don't have to know this example, but it is important that you know how the classification system works. Okay, so this is not for examination or test purpose. It's just for your general knowledge to understand classification. Okay, so we've got an interesting fact today. Let's look at that interesting fact. They say there are specific international rules according to which genus and species names are written. Okay, the genus name is written first and starts with a capital letter. After that is a space, and then species name is written in small letters. If it appears in type form, it is typed in italics or diagonal. For example, Homo sapiens. So you see it's in italics. In handwritten format, the 2 words are underlined separately. Okay, so we just have to skip this page and continue. We know that was just for information. So we know that the organisms are classified in 5 groups of 5 kingdoms. Now let's learn the difference between the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. Remember, we have 5 kingdoms, but we are going to look at the differences between these 2 kingdoms, plant kingdom and animal kingdom. Okay, let's start with the plant kingdom. Yes, I just want to put it like this. They say plant cells have walls. Number 1, the plant cells have walls. Plants can photosynthesize and produce their own food. We say that they are autotrophic. So please know the definition of the word autotrophic. Autotrophic, okay, which means that plant can photosynthesize and produce their own food. And plants cannot move from one place to another. Plants do not have a nervous system, and when plants reproduce, a pollen grain is transferred to a stigma and the seeds are carried in a fruit. Let's read again. When plants reproduce, a pollen grain is transferred to a stigma and the seeds are carried in the fruit. We'll learn more about this as we continue. And let's look at the animal kingdom. Animal cells do not have cell walls. Animals cannot photosynthesize, are therefore dependent on plants or other animals for food. They are heterotrophic. Heterotrophic, okay, and which means they cannot produce their own food. Okay, they are dependent on other plants or other animals for food. Animals can move from one place to another. Animals have a nervous system. When animals reproduce, a sperm cell fuses with an egg cell and the embryo develops inside an egg in the mother's womb. Okay, so the things that we need to differentiate is the cell walls, okay? And then the second thing we differentiate is if autotrophic or heterotrophic. And number 2, if it's the movement. Number 3, number 4, it's the nervous system. And number 5, it's the reproduction of each kingdom. Okay, so this is how we differentiate between the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. Now let's look at diversity in animals. They say the animal kingdom is divided into 2 main groups. We have animals, and these animals are divided into vertebrates, which means it's animals with a spine. And we have invertebrates, which are animals without a spine. Okay, so 2 different types of animals. Let's look now at vertebrates, which is animals with spines. Vertebrates have spine, which consists of individual vertebrae. This is why they are called vertebrates. The skeletons of vertebrates are found inside their bodies. That is why we call it endoskeleton, because the skeletons are inside, okay? Endo, inside. Right, so all these are vertebrates, okay, because they have spines. Invertebrates like snails, spiders, crabs, and insects do not have a spine. These animals are called invertebrates. The skeleton of invertebrates is found on the outside of the body, and we call it an exoskeleton. Exo means outside, endo means inside. So the vertebrates have got the spine inside, so they have a endoskeleton. Okay, and the invertebrates, they've got the they've got the skeleton outside of their bodies, and we call it exoskeleton. Okay, so these are the example of invertebrates. They don't have a spine and their skeleton is outside. Okay, not too difficult. Okay, animal kingdom different into two types, vertebrates and invertebrates. So now let us look at the vertebrates in detail. They say vertebrates are divided into 5 groups. These groups are called classes. There are many different types of animals in each class. Vertebrates are classified as follows. Okay, so we've got animal kingdom, and we have vertebrates. Okay, so let's look at the 5 groups for vertebrates. Okay, the first class is fish, the second class is amphibians, and okay, the example of fish there we have gulgune, and we have the second class is amphibians, example is the frog, and we have reptiles. Okay, the example is the lizard. We have mammals, the example is the rat. We have the birds, and example is the pigeon. Okay, now let's learn about fish. They say fish, cold-blooded, oviparous, breathe with gills, body is covered with scales. Okay, let's look down a little bit. Okay, so fish is cold-blooded, oviparous, they breathe with gills, the body is covered with scales. Okay, amphibians are also cold-blooded, oviparous. They can breed on land and in water, and they have a wet, naked skin. Reptiles are also cold-blooded, oviparous, can only breathe on the land, body is covered with scales. And we have mammals, they are warm-blooded, they can only breathe on land, body is covered with hair, and young is suckled, have outer pinna, which is the earlobes. Okay, and birds are also warm-blooded, oviparous, they can only breathe on land, and body is covered with feathers. These are the types of vertebrate animals. Okay, and these are the 5 groups, and they say each group has got many animals that falls into there. Okay, so let's look, what do they mean by cold-blooded? Cold-blooded, they mean the body takes on the same temperature as its surrounding. Okay, examples: cold-blooded animals, fish, amphibians, and reptiles. Warm-bodied, it means that the body temperature remains constant and does not change with the temperature of the surrounding. Okay, so warm-blooded animals are birds and mammals. And what are gills? We saw when we talk about fish that the fish, they breathe through gills. And what are gills? Gills is an opening used by, for example, fish to absorb the dissolved oxygen from the water into the bloodstream. Okay, opening used, for example, by fish to absorb the oxygen from water into the bloodstream. And what is oviparous? It means it lays egg. The egg develop outside the body. And they say oviparous animals is fish, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. Okay, mammals